Hello, everyone. I'm Jordan Earls, and I'm the co-founder and lead developer of Qtum. So first, I want to give kind of just a very quick overview of what Qtum is, just for those that aren't aware of it. So Qtum is kind of like three major parts. So it's a blockchain smart contract platform. And basically, we have smart contracts supported by the EVM, or Ethereum Virtual Machine. Basically, that's what makes Ethereum work and what runs like Solidity smart contracts. Now, on the other side, we have what's called the UTXO model. And the UTXO model is basically what Bitcoin uses to track funds, prevent double spends, and things like that. And then we have, which isn't on here, but proof of stake consensus model. And our proof of stake is kind of different from the common form of proof of stake you see today, which is typically delegated proof of stake. We don't have delegates or master nodes or anything like that. Basically, anyone can stake on the network. There's no minimum requirement. There's no like you don't have to lock up your coins or anything like that. And Qtum has been launched since September of 2017. And so we initially launched, or not launched, but received funding and everything through a crowd sale. And just before the crowd sale, we actually, Qtum basically started in 2016, where, we were building the team, getting the initial people in, and, figuring out how it's actually going to work. Because basically the initial pitch was those three components: proof of stake, UTXO, smart contracts. And so we raised $1 million in 2016 in seed funding. And that basically got us off the ground and allowed us to basically build a prototype and everything and prepare for a crowd sale. The crowd sale itself happened in March of 2017. And so our initial goal was to raise $15.6 million. And we had around 5,000 people that contributed, and I think it was over 100 different countries in total that actually ended up participating in the crowd sale. And unlike today, typically you have the Ethereum-based smart contract or something like that for doing a crowd sale. We end up using a series of exchanges to actually handle the crowd sale for us. And this, as well as not having to worry about any smart contract bugs and things like that, it also allowed us to not have to worry about the KYC and anti-money laundering. So the exchanges did that for us and handled it for us, and probably handled it more professionally than we could have, on a shoestring budget, basically, for such a large task. And just to be clear, back in March of 2017, crowd sales were quite a bit different than they are today. It was kind of exceptional to even have a crowd sale in the space. I think there was only one crowd sale the month before we did ours. And of course, after March, we really saw the industry pick up and the whole crowd sale craze of 2017. But our actual crowd sale was a great success. We ended up raising everything we wanted in around 4 days, and that ended up being around 11,000 Bitcoin and 70,000 Ethereum. And at the time, this was very exceptional to have a pretty large crowd sale be a success, and in only 4 days. We're initially planning on it being around 30 days long, but it completed in 4 days. And so this success, brought us quite a few news articles and things like that. And so at the peak of it, we were having around 5 articles per day coming out from some major news sources. So the crowd sale basically was set up to fund the Qtum Chain Foundation. And the Qtum Chain Foundation is a Singapore entity that was established to basically fund the development of Qtum and fund the development of the protocol and the actual ecosystem, and help to jumpstart it and get it into place. And so at the time, Singapore regulations, regulations worldwide for crowd sales and such were very, very undefined, basically. So we were trying to, Singapore had always been pretty forward-facing in the cryptocurrency industry, and so it seemed like the natural place to set up a foundation to, trying to abide by all the regulation that we could that was clear at the time. And so the actual cost of running Qtum today, it's definitely not cheap. So we have around 40 full-time people, and about 50% of those are actually developers. We've always been a very developer-focused community, and have always been more focused on building things rather than just generating hype, because we feel like building things, that's what actually lasts in this industry. And so we actually have offices in Shanghai, Beijing, and Stockholm, and beyond the actual offices, which have quite a few people, we have multiple remote employees basically spread throughout the world. Like we have two people in Macedonia, and we have of course the U.S. team as well. And it's kind of off the cuff, but we had like a meeting yesterday with the U.S. team, and we're actually going to be establishing a Denver office and basically having people relocate because we've had some, a lack of focus in the U.S. and a lack of coordination. And so we're trying to remedy this. So, the general theme of this, of Qtum, is continual improvement and basically not just, sitting still and seeing what happens. But anyway, so, the actual company consists of many different people. The operations, of course, does kind of some of the boring stuff of like, making sure we're paying taxes properly and making sure that we're abiding by local regulation for having like our offices and local companies, and having employment contracts and whatever, the boring stuff. And then legal, making sure that we actually are abiding by this new regulation as clarity is reached. And I think everyone here knows that the regulatory landscape is always changing. Especially in the U.S. in the past year, there's been quite a few different things that have came up and such. And we've been trying to basically make sure that we're abiding by all of them as much as possible. And so there's also, of course, marketing, which is spreading the outreach of Qtum and everything, and basically spreading the word about it, telling developers, businesses, enterprises, and everything. And then development, of course, chugging away on the product, improving it, and everything else. So financially, well, it kind of has to go back to the crowd sale. So in the crowd sale, we sold 51 million tokens to the community. And before that, we had sold 8 million tokens for the initial seed funding. So that basically leaves the foundation controlling 41 million Qtum. So of course we have a thorough plan for how this is supposed to be utilized. So kind of at the top of this chart is the seed funding round that of course came out of that and everything, and then it's also used for like employee retention and things like that, and attracting new talent, and basically making sure that everyone is nice and comfortable and has no reason to leave. Because once you find a good like developer or marketing or really anyone that's super experienced and good in this industry, it's extremely expensive to lose them. So along with that, we also have the market expansion. So that's like making new deals and getting this in front of more people, and integrating with different services and wallets, exchanges, and whatever, and making sure that basically Qtum is as far-reaching as possible. And then there's business development, and that's basically the portion of the fund that is used to jumpstart the quantum ecosystem. So, some of these projects would come to us and basically be like, we have this great idea, we have a prototype, but we don't have any money to continue from there. What are we going to do? How do we get this onto Qtum? And basically, we would provide the seed funding to get them off the ground and to basically get them developing on Qtum. And this overall supply and everything of quantum tokens, this has really been covered in a little bit more depth and more like hard numbers in our blog post we published recently called Quantum Circulating Supply Updated. And also another thing to note is just that, whenever we initially raised the crowd sale, Bitcoin was worth like around $1,000 and Ethereum was worth around 40. So I mean, the price difference from then to today has definitely significantly extended our runway. Our initial plan was only to basically have the foundation funding for 4 years and to basically have it split up 25% per year. And that has been greatly extended. And we also, of course, hedge our bets though. We have crypto funding, but we also always make sure that we have enough actual like US dollar cash to fund the company for 1 to 2 years at all times. So this is a very big chart with basically like all the different services and integrations we have. And I'm sure there's probably 1 or 2 that are left off of there. But I mean, we have a big focus on wallets, of course, making it easy for people to store their quantum, to use it to use hardware wallets and secure devices, and also to make it easy for people that use multi-currency wallets to be able to also use quantum in them. And so that's been a big focus of ours. And then payment providers that have if you're running a business and you want to sell something online and you want to do it in cryptocurrency, you don't want to have to set up your own node and all the code and whatever else. It's just too complicated, and that's not even mentioning like the potential regulation and legal problems with it. So we've also had a big focus on payment providers to make integrating quantum into your business for selling as simple as possible. And then we have like node services and cloud services. Basically, these things allow you to more easily set up nodes. Full nodes especially are useful for developers, but I mean they're also useful for businesses, for historical data and things like that. And then we have like staking services. So our proof of stake model, you can't directly delegate to another staker. However, you can basically trust another staker to stake your coins for you. And so we have 2 partners in that. And then the most interesting to me, at least, being a developer, is the research corporation that we've been doing. So, there's like a new revolutionary paper that comes out practically every week, probably more than one, to be honest, in the cryptocurrency industry and cryptography in general. And keeping up with that is definitely impossible without a lot of help. So we've partnered with quite a few universities and built a very strong research team to, help keep up with this emerging technology, see how it can be integrated, and also research our own cutting edge technology, and to basically see how can we improve quantum beyond just the implementation. More like, how can we improve quantum at the core model, and introducing new cryptography algorithms and things to basically enable things that weren't previously possible. So the crowd sale was in March of 2017. We launched in September of 2017, and just because we launched, we haven't just been sitting back. We've been making continual improvements on like the quantum core wallet, like the core node thing that you use, but also, of course, the integrations and infrastructure around that. and basically making it easier to use, faster, and other improvements. So we have over 1,000 GitHub commits on our Qtum core repository, and a commit isn't really we're not saying it's like just rename a variable, make a commit. Like it's like a unit of work, but it's not really fungible, if that makes sense. But and we've had 35 different releases since 2017, and I think we actually just had a 36th. But we basically have been continually improving this, is the big core message that I want to say. And over this, we've mostly stayed on our roadmap and plans. I say mostly because, well, we'll talk about it in a second. So here is the historical roadmap for 2017. And basically, at that point, we were just focused on, let's get it out the door, get it released, and make sure it's secure, but also deliver. We don't want to have crowdsale funds and then be building a product for 3 years or something like that. So we basically released it and everything, and then released some APIs, integrations, things like that to basically make it to where people can start actually building on Qtum. Because that was our big goal, was to get people to where they can build on Qtum easily and without a lot of pain, and without having to use a testnet version or anything like that, build actual production ready products. So roadmap of 2018, we actually got probably a little bit too ambitious. I'll be straightforward. There's definitely a few things that were missed in this roadmap. The biggest is actually that first item, which is kind of small and hard to see, but the Qtum x86 virtual machine. And that basically, we had a prototype ready for 2018, but we basically were implementing a more final version of it and decided, okay, we can't just have this new thing just be a small feature. We have to rewrite some infrastructure around that. And so we basically went back to the drawing board to see what else can we improve with this. And we also had quite a few other products released in 2018 that of course did make the roadmap. And most of the things that didn't make the roadmap were basically slated as not being as important as we initially thought. But we had the Qtum Electrum wallet released in 2018, which included ledger support, and so 2019, we're finally to the present. So one thing we've already released a few months ago, or I think a month ago, was UNITA. And that is actually an enterprise version of Qtum. So that's like a private blockchain that uses a different consensus algorithm called Raft to basically have faster, instantaneous transactions, things suited for a private blockchain that don't really work out on our public blockchain, at least not without several model changes. So the idea with UNITA, it's not directly impacting Qtum, but it actually is indirectly, I guess. So the big thing is that we're marketing UNITA to enterprise customers and businesses that need to build their own private blockchain application and don't want the data to be out there on a public blockchain or whatever. And so the big thing is that UNITA and Qtum are pretty much identical on the API, and all the integration and code that you would build for it is basically the same. So UNITA is a good way to basically, so that whenever an enterprise comes along and says, okay, we need to build this public blockchain application, what platform are we going to use? The answer should be Qtum, because they already have experience with UNITA. They've already seen it. They've built some things on it. They already have people experience with using it. So that's kind of the relevance of it to the actual core Qtum product. And also in 2019, we're going to be having a public testnet of the Qtum x86. And that is basically, I mean, it's a lot of things, but the core, like one of the main benefits of it is that it drastically expands the hiring pool from which you can choose whenever you're looking for someone to, build your blockchain application. Basically allows for you to use like common programming languages like Rust or Go or C++ to write smart contracts. And, but it's really beyond that. That was like the initial plan in 2018 of just doing that. But we've actually implemented and designed several other things to go along with it. Things like enabling use cases that weren't previously possible in any cryptocurrency, or at least not the main ones. And also adding like, storage rent, making it to where nodes can actually have a constrained amount of resources that they have to have in order to run a Qtum full node. And various other features like preventing developers from shooting themselves in the foot and losing a lot of money, basically. We're also going to have Lightning Network. We're going to have like EVM improvements. Right now we're kind of out of sync with the main version of Ethereum, like their version of the EVM. So we've missed out on a few features that we're going to be implementing later in 2019 in a hard fork. And then there's also this really cool thing that has a bad name called QIP5. And that's basically allowing for people that do not own Qtum to actually interact with Qtum decentralized applications without having to receive Qtum and deal with all the legal headache that sending someone money as a business incurs, but also lets them keep their private keys safe and owned by them. Like our main goal is to reach the point where you're using a mobile app or whatever to like book a decentralized Uber and you book the car and you're like, oh, that's cool, it was fast. And you never think, oh, this is built on blockchain. Like that's our goal, is for you to basically not be aware it's built on blockchain and everything, because you never see anyone on Facebook saying, oh, cool, I bet this uses AWS. Like it just doesn't happen. It's beyond like that'll be whenever mainstream appeal is real, I feel like. So that's coming in the hard fork later in 2019. And then, the actual x86, Qtum x86 hard fork and integration into the mainnet is basically planned for later in 2020. And along with that, we've been doing a lot of research on privacy assets. So that's basically allowing you as a smart contract developer business to have private assets in your smart contracts and decentralized apps that you can't trace through the public blockchain, that is hidden like Zcash, Monero, et cetera, but doing it in a flexible way through smart contracts. And this is still like active research and everything else, so I don't have too much details to share about it yet. But I feel like privacy is one of the biggest hurdles with the blockchain space right now. And so that's kind of like what we have planned for 2019. And that's really all I have, and I hope that kind of brings you up to speed with where we are and, more importantly, where we're going in the next year. And thank you.
All right, so we have time for a couple questions here. Awesome, so we'll go to the audience, and then I have a couple that I'll probably add at the end if we have time left.
Hi, thanks for that. Can you just outline the model? Don't you have staking nodes and a hierarchy, validators? Or how does it work in terms of securing the network?
So the staking nodes are basically kind of an all-in-one. So they, of course, mirror the blockchain, distribute it, and everything else, but they also validate it and are creating blocks and pushing it forward. So it's not like, it's kind of gotten a little bit confusing to say proof of stake with how many different ways of doing it there are today. But ours is very simple. It's basically very similar to Bitcoin, except for instead of chugging away making a proof of work, you're basically using your coins to make something similar to proof of work that can create a block. So the staking nodes do validation, and also, of course, there's full nodes that do not do any staking that also help distribute the blockchain and do validation.
All right. Any more questions out there in the audience?
Hi. Just a quick question. We met with the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance downstairs. They're dedicated. Their mission seems to be the same as yours in regards to creating standards for the industry and whatnot. I'm wondering if you're working closely with them or if they've appeared later on and you guys are just the OGs of creating the standards. What's happening?
I think Ethereum probably has us is ahead of us as far as first mover advantage and all that, because we definitely came after them. We've been working with some companies in different blockchains, but not Ethereum specifically. But we're always open to it, and we are keeping track of their, one of the main comparisons is Quantum x86 is very similar to the goal of WebAssembly, which is the Ethereum 2.0 kind of thing of using normal programming languages and such. And I think we're taking it kind of one step further, but we're definitely keeping up with their progress and everything, but not working directly with them.
So I had a question. You were talking about business development and getting developers to develop on Qtum and things like that. What have you seen being built? What are the big use cases that you guys are looking at, and what are you most excited about?
I mean, for us, we've always had kind of a mobile focus, and there's been quite a few different mobile applications. Can't remember the name of it, but either way, I'll go into normal stuff. But one is Ink Chain. They're building kind of a Twitter social networking kind of thing on Qtum. There's Space Chain, which made pretty big news because they launched a Qtum full node satellite into space, and they're actually building a a mesh network of for distributed or decentralized internet, using these small CubeSats and everything. And I'm sure there's more, but at one point I think we had a count of 60 or 70 different decentralized apps.
And then I think my last question, I was just looking at your financial update earlier. Being that you guys kind of raised earlier in 2017, how did you think about treasury management, or did you think about treasury management? Did you think, we need to start selling off some BTC or some ETH, and kind of how did you handle that whole process?
I mean, we definitely believe in crypto for the long term, but we also have to hedge our bets. So that's kind of why we've always had a goal of basically always having at least 1 year of cash in the bank. Even if crypto goes to zero or whatever, we're not left scrambling trying to figure out how to pay employees next month. That's been our main strategy as far as treasury management. There's more. I'm not super involved in all of it though. Have 2 other co-founders that do more of that stuff.
I'm sure there's more nuance to it. Yeah, absolutely, as there always is. Any other questions out in the audience? I think we're coming up right on the end of our session. We can definitely fit in one more.
Hey, sorry, just curious. You said that the wallets do validation and mining and staking, and then you said full nodes don't actually stake. Is that right?
No. Well, I mean, a staker is a full node, but a full node isn't necessarily a staker, if that makes sense. They both use the same software and everything. It's just if you put coins on it and you enable staking, then you're staking. Otherwise, you're just a full node.
So they're essentially, okay.
Yeah.
Got
so
it.
full
I was
nodes
just
still do
curious if
validation.
they're not staking, then what's the incentive of running a full node?
I mean, there's no like direct financial incentive to it.
Got it.
But we did recently have like a full node like incentive program to actually put a little bit of like incentive behind that. But you know, that's not like an on-chain consensus thing or anything. And so, I mean, the main point of running a full node is to help the network basically out of like, you know, not charity, but you know, like being a nice person, I guess. But also, you know, all stakers are full node, so they of course gain an advantage from running a full node. And then developers and businesses often need a full node for various validation purposes in running their business and such.
All right, well, we're up at the end of the time for this session. You can probably find Jordan walking around, talk about Qtum. But yeah, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.